Hey, what's up, guys? This is K Branch back here with another episode of Fan Talk. As you can tell, I'm in a little different space this week, switching some things up, keeping things interesting. But hey, welcome back, guys. It's fun to do this. Last week I had a great episode with my friend Kai. This week I'm just soloing it, and we got a lot of things to talk about today. Football season is over, and so this will be the last thing I say about the season, at least. You know, there's still free agency and the draft coming up. But we'll talk a little bit about the Super Bowl, the result. We'll talk a little bit about, the bulk. We'll talk about the NCAA tournament coming up. It's almost March. We're mid-February at this point. College basketball is really getting there towards the end. We'll break down some bracketology with ESPN and Joe Lenardi. And, yeah, we'll have a good time. So I am obviously doing this via computer. I'm not in my normal studio. So we're going to see how this works. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Let's see here. So here's my screen. Okay. So initial thoughts about the Super Bowl. Let me tell you. You know, last week we talked about, I had my friend Kai come on. We did a little preview. We did some guesses on what was going to happen and what we wanted to happen, as well as what we thought was going to happen. And Kai was right. You know, he was rooting for the Eagles, but his mind was telling him that the Chiefs were going to win this game. And honestly, I thought either way, I could see it going either way. I really wanted the Eagles to win. I thought the Eagles could win, and I think they would have won. Now, I'm not going to sit here and you know, point fingers or blame or say it should have been different. But I believe that if that holding penalty that occurred on James Bradbury on 3rd and 8 was not called, Chiefs would have settled for a field goal. I believe the Eagles would have marched down the field. Jalen Hurts would have scored a touchdown. At the very least, got a field goal and sent it to overtime, but scored a touchdown and would have won that game. At that point, there was about 1:38 left, I believe. And that holding penalty pretty much just sealed the victory. And I'm not going to sit here and bag the referees or say that it was a bad call. You guys already have your own opinions, and you're probably already solidified in those, so you don't need to hear it from me. But I just will say this one thing. I believe that call was obviously very important and very crucial to the game. And without that call, I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs win that game. They had a really good second half. Patrick Mahomes played incredible. I mean, that guy's a superstar, and I'm not going to argue that because that's just a fact. That's just a solid fact. But I could have really seen it, you know, going the other way for the Eagles. And frankly, I wish we would have at least had the opportunity to see that, right? You know, I think a bailout by the referees to give the Super Bowl, I think that let down a lot of people. But I'll just leave it at that. The Chiefs win 38-35 over the Eagles. They get another Super Bowl for Andy Reid, second for Patrick Mahomes. He's now in a small group of quarterbacks who have won multiple Super Bowls. He's in good company for sure. But I just want to share some interesting facts. And as you can see here on this page, this is from Fortune. And it's talking about the viewership. Now, this Super Bowl was the third most watched in history, the only behind New England and Seattle in 2015 and Seattle and Denver in 2014. So, like, this is crazy how many people watched this game, or at least had the game on. It's estimated that 113 million people were watching Kansas City Chiefs against the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a lot of people. And that's just not here in the United States. This is a worldwide number. So in comparison, I guess, I mean, it's not large compared to the population of the world, but it's very large compared to any kind of football game that is broadcasted and watched. And so that's kind of interesting. But even more interesting, if you take a look at this, the halftime show by Rihanna, which she did an incredible job. I loved her red outfit. Also pretty crazy that she performed while she was pregnant. Like that's incredible. So great job, Rihanna. I mean, you don't need me to tell you that. You don't even know who I am. But her halftime show averaged 118.7 million viewers, making it the second most watched in Super Bowl history, only behind Katy Perry's in 2015. That's crazy. More people watch the halftime show than the actual game, which, I mean, if you think about it, makes sense in a sense, because everyone is watching the game regardless if they care about football. Some people didn't watch a single football game all year, but they're watching this game. And so the halftime show is particularly interesting to people. That people like the commercials, they like the ads. It's pretty much a holiday. I often say that it's my fourth favorite holiday. In my top 5, it's number 4. So that's pretty incredible. Super Bowl 50, what was it, 57? Super Bowl 57 did not disappoint. It was really good. I genuinely liked the entire game until that last call. I would have liked to seen, I don't know. I just would have liked to seen an opportunity, right? Like such a great game, and then you get down to the very last and you get bailed out by a penalty. Like, I think that kind of taints and the Kansas City Chiefs don't care, and they'll just be like, well, Patrick Mahomes is great anyways, like, who cares? I just feel like it taints the victory a little bit. It would have been better, like, let's say the Kansas City Chiefs still won. They kick that field goal, and then the Eagles go down, and they stop the Eagles, and they don't let the Eagles just score. That's a better victory. Or they go to overtime, and the Chiefs come out on top then. That's better, That's a better story. But sometimes stories are just that. They're just stories, right? And sometimes the realities of life don't live up to that. The personal experience I was thinking about, this basketball game I was at. It was Utah State and San Diego State. It was about a week ago or so. And Utah State was down by 16 at halftime. San Diego State, really, really good basketball team, probably the best in the Mountain West, for many years to come. And Utah State clawed their way back all the way to the point where they were down by 1 with 13 seconds left. And they missed their shot, but they foul San Diego State. So San Diego State goes to the line, and they make 1 of 2. And so there's about 1 second left for Utah State to get a shot off. And they do a full court pass, and it goes out of bounds, but it's tipped by San Diego State, so they get one more opportunity. So they had about I believe it was 0.2 seconds left on the clock. And so it's like, it has to be a lob play, right? Like, you don't have enough time to catch and shoot. So we're all thinking, okay, drop a lob play to your big man. He'll throw it down. We'll go to overtime. This will be crazy. Utah State will have the momentum and go win in overtime. But then the inbound pass is tipped, and the clock runs out, and the game's over. And it's just like, wow, that's so anticlimactic, right? But that's sometimes the reality of sports. The reality of sports is there's not always a fairy tale ending. There's not always a Cinderella moment. There's not always what you expect. Sometimes the harsh reality is that it just ends. And for the Eagles, that's how it went. Tough call there by the referees, and they lost. And the Kansas City Chiefs won. And Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce are now the most popular people, and Rihanna are the three most popular people in the entire world. So that's my thoughts on the Super Bowl. I thought it was great. I can't wait for next season. Obviously, big football enthusiasts won't waste any time talking about next season and looking ahead. But now let's stop this. I want to talk a little bit more about college basketball. I did share that little personal story of mine. So this is an ESPN page. When you just go on to ESPN and go to college basketball, you can see bracketology. Now, I wish there was a degree in this at my university, because I would definitely do this. I would get my bachelor's in bracketology, and Joe Lenardi would be the dean of the degree or the university or whatever, But anyways, Joe Lenardi, he does this. He updates it, I think, every single day. And essentially, he just keeps track of the projected tournament. So here's a 68-team tournament. As if the season ended today, this is what he projects would be the March Madness tournament. These are the teams that would be in. These are the rankings that they would have. He also has this little section here called On the Bubble with 4 categories. Last 4 buys. Essentially, these are the last 4 teams that get into the tournament into this round here. Last 4 in are teams that get into this kind of pre-tournament here. There's 4 games usually that 11 seed and 16 seeds usually they play to get into the tournament, just because, there's so many conferences, and every champion from every conference goes to the tournament. And so instead of expanding the bracket, they have this method here. So last four in, first four out, and then next four out. So this is a cool little thing. I want to walk through it a little bit and kind of share my thoughts and just kind of get you guys excited for college basketball. Now it's really basketball season. Now that football season is over. So take off your football hats and put on your basketball hats and let's roll. So first initial impressions, Alabama, top overall seed. They did drop a game to Tennessee this week, but they've been playing really well. This program has really turned around. I remember when I first started watching college basketball, Alabama wasn't a great basketball school. They're a football school, and they will always be a football school. But now they're a football and basketball school. Alabama, really good team, currently in the number one seed because Purdue, who had been the number one seed previously, has dropped a couple games in a row. So they're kind of sliding. Alabama slides right in, and that's kind of the situation there. And then he also kind of highlights, Joe Lenardi highlights the first team out and the last team in, and he talks about these different things here. But I want to talk about this right here on the bubble and how they determine this. Obviously, you have to have quality wins. That's why you see teams like this year in particular. That's why you see teams like Kentucky and North Carolina who historically are very good and would historically get a 1, 2, 3 seed, they're just fighting to get into the tournament at this point. But they have a lot of losses compared to, Charleston team that only has 3 losses or, like a Utah State team with 7, like Seton Hall team with 9, New Mexico team with 8, so it's easier for these teams to get in because they play stronger opponents, right? So that's the same thing with like Nevada, Boise State, like they play these stronger opponents and they have better wins. Like West Virginia is kind of towards the bottom of the Big 12, but they have these big wins, like a big win over Baylor most recently, that kind of put them in this position. And so that's kind of the mindset of this. If you're wondering like, wow, like I'm a Charleston fan and they only have 3 losses, but they're going to go out while this Wisconsin team that has 10 losses is getting in. Well, yeah, you got to look at quality of schedule, which oftentimes puts teams who aren't in like these big name conferences, like you look at these, Big 10, Big 12, SEC, Big East, like these teams, they have better schedules, stronger schedules. And so naturally they get in more over, American teams or these other conferences that don't quite get as much love, So here's the bracket as it stands right now. If it started today, this is how it would go. And this is really interesting. Alabama's the 1 seed being played in Birmingham. Well, that would be home court advantage if I've ever seen it. Houston's another 1 seed. They've been playing really well. Purdue's still a 1 seed. And then Kansas has kind of avoided a slippery season and it still gets that 1 seed. Kansas, as you note, won it last year, and they're looking to repeat. I actually picked Kansas to win it last year, and I was in this tournament group where, you put down some money and then the winner gets all the money at the end, So I actually came out of that group with $900 in total earnings. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not a Kansas fan by any means, but I picked them to win, won $900, and boom, bada bing, bada boom. We'll see if I can repeat this year. We'll see there. But some things to note here as I'm looking around. The games will be played, let's see, in Birmingham, Orlando, Columbus, Denver, Greensboro, Des Moines, Albany, Sacramento. I believe those are all the places there. Yeah. So I just got to say a shout out real quick. I'm from Utah. So Utah Valley, right there, that 13 seed, they're currently atop of their conference. So, if they win their conference championship, then they're in, as a 13 seed. And that would be pretty cool as well. Utah State is a team that is currently the next 4 out. They are currently 20-7 is their record, So I'll click there and I'll kind of show you this. So 20-7, pretty good record. They beat Utah Valley, which is a tournament team. And they've had some quality wins, but every team that is above them in the Mountain West, they've lost to. And so they've lost to Boise, they lost to San Diego State, they lost to Nevada, and then they dropped one to San Jose State as well. And then they have Southern Methodist as a loss and Weber State as a loss. So I'm just using this school as an example, really, to kind of get you the picture of what teams are getting in and what teams are not. And so the committee takes this into consideration. They look at, for example, a Utah State team, and they're like, okay, well, 20-7, who have they lost to? Well, they lost to a good San Diego State team twice, Boise State, Nevada, all good teams. But they did have a bad loss at San Jose State, SMU, and Weber State. And so they take that in consideration. They're like, these are some bad losses. And how many good wins do they really have? And you kind of look, and all of their wins have been against teams that are below them. And so to really, solidify themselves into a better position for Utah State in particular, they would essentially have to win for their next 4 games, and then they'd have to do really well in the Mountain West tournament. Or the alternate route would be, if they didn't win out, then they would simply just have to win the Mountain West tournament. It's kind of an uphill battle for this Utah State team to get in. And the same thing for New Mexico. Like, they have some good wins. We'll go here and check it out. They have some good wins. They started the season 14-0. Like, holy cow. They beat a Boise State team. They beat a San Diego State team. They beat Utah State. Let's see. Actually, they lost to Utah State. Excuse me. They lost to Utah State. They lost to a good Nevada team, lost to a good Utah State team, but then dropped one at Air Force and dropped one at Wyoming. So, they're currently on a 4-game skid. They were in good position at 19-3. Now they're on a 4-game skid. They essentially need to do the same thing. They either need to win all 5, or win the Mountain West tournament. So you see these teams with good records, but they're in a tough position because of their losses and because of their lack of quality wins. Whereas, let's take a look at North Carolina. North Carolina, really good team. Look at their losses. They dropped a game to Indiana, Alabama, Iowa State, all really good teams. They do have a bad loss at Virginia Tech, a bad loss at Pittsburgh, good Virginia team, a couple of bad losses here, and a good loss there. I don't know if there's really even a good loss, but you know what I'm saying. So they're at 16-10, but they're in a better position to get in than a 20-7 Utah State team or a 19-7 New Mexico team based on their quality wins. Also, they have North Carolina State, Virginia. They have some big games coming up. So again, if they keep winning, then they have a really good shot. If they keep losing, then I'd find it really hard for a 16-15 team to get in, So that's just kind of how it works, essentially. I encourage you guys to go check this out. If you're really into this, go check it out. It also breaks down how many teams per conference are currently projected to be in. And again, this doesn't necessarily mean this is what the tournament's going to look like. Of course, the committee's got to sit down and consider all those things I just talked about and put some pieces together and make the magic work, essentially. But yeah, keep your eye on college basketball. A lot of teams have 4 or 5 games left in the season. And then tournament play starts at the beginning of March. I know I'm going down to the Mountain West tournament to do some coverage there for Utah State for both men and women's. So that'll be really fun to do that and have that experience. And yeah, it'll just be really fun to see how this plays out. If you guys really like to put your luck to the test, sign up for some tournament challenges. Sign up for tournament pick'ems through ESPN, or I know CBS Sports does one. Yahoo probably does one. Whatever your sports avenue is, sign up, make some picks, and see what you can do there. But yeah, that's our episode this week here on Fan Talk. Little different situation here. But as always, I failed to mention this at the beginning. Fan Talk is a podcast that you can find on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. I video this on purpose so I can put it out on YouTube because I have followers on YouTube as well. And you can check me out on Twitter and Instagram. Both usernames are just KBrench. Just go look it up and check it out. Thanks, guys, and have a great weekend. President's Day weekend, long weekend for a lot of people. So go have some fun, go watch some college basketball, and take it easy, guys.